This is the only tool you need to help you make your worship sets in minutes. One of the hardest parts about preparing a worship set is figuring out where to start. So many songs to choose from, so many details to think through. It can be paralyzing for a worship leader. And that's why we've developed the worship set cheat sheet as an easy launching point for any worship leader who's learning to make a worship set. Hey, my name's Jeff, and I created Worship Ministry Coach for leaders just like you to help you tackle the challenges of ministry and to help you get from where you are to where God's leading you. One of the most basic skills you need as a worship leader is the ability to create and implement a worship set. Yet it's also one of the most important, as it happens so often. And it has huge implications on how effective we are as worship leaders in leading our worship ministries. There are tons of tips and tricks and advice on how to make one, but we wanted to create a practical tool that helps leaders develop this skill so it becomes a habit. It's easy to process as they're approaching a new worship opportunity. I realized that I have a mental exercise that I do in my mind when I'm preparing a set that I do without really knowing it. I was able to kind of reverse engineer it into what I call the worship set cheat sheet. The cheat sheet gives you a 7-song jumpstart on developing a worship set. So using the 7 F's of the cheat sheet, you'll be able to put together a worship set for your next service easier and quicker than ever. So it has 7 F's for 7 songs. And the first F is first. Now, super practical. Literally write down the first song that comes to mind. Maybe you woke up with a particular song on your mind, or maybe you've been singing one all day. Remember, the Holy Spirit speaks in very practical ways. So if you've had a song on your heart as you approach preparing a worship set, then perhaps the Lord put it there. The second F is foundation. When I'm preparing a worship set, I like to start with an anchor point to build off of. And that is what I call foundation. It's really a skill of discernment. We're prayerfully asking the Lord for a place to build off of. Perhaps you really sense wanting to focus on God's faithfulness, and you're drawn to the bridge of King of My Heart, which says over and over again, "You're never gonna let me down," right? What a great anchor point for you to develop the rest of the set around. So you can go so many different places from there. Maybe you end up leading into singing "Great is Thy Faithfulness," or maybe the chorus of "Goodness of God." Lots of different places. But what it shows is that it's leading you somewhere. The foundation is the practical building block to develop from. If you identify the foundation song, then you've already done the hardest part. The third F is fit. Simply ask the question, what best fits this service and this setting? Maybe it's Father's Day, and naturally you're drawn to sing Good, Good Father. I'm kidding. Don't do that. But seriously, if you know the theme or the topic of the service that you're preparing for, think about what song fits best, that leads people into worship and connecting with that topic. So don't feel pressure that you have to make every song line up with that focus or that topic. That's just crazy to do. But perhaps it creates a key moment or a key part of where you're leading the congregation in the service. So the fit is a song that fits with the theme of what you'll be focusing on during that service. The fourth F is fast. Now, every worship song needs a little bit of variety and some diversity. And a majority of the songs that we sing in the church they're either mid-tempo or slow. So it's always a good practice to brainstorm at least one song in the set that kind of brings a little more energy if needed. It gives you that extra boost of energy and excitement. I don't adhere to the philosophy that Every set needs to start with a praise song and be followed by a handshake, and then announcements and blah 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 blah. All then some mid-tempo anthems, all that kind of stuff. But every set should have a distinct high point. Sometimes it's in the form of an upbeat song, and sometimes it's not. Either way, it's always good to have a song with some more energy in the rough draft so that you can pull from it. So just jot down a fast song that's potentially for your set. The fifth F is familiar. If the goal of our worship set is to lead the congregation to worship the Lord, there's no easier way to do that than to give them something familiar to work with. If you want people to be comfortable, then give them something that they're used to. It doesn't matter what congregation you're leading. Every group will have songs that the majority of the people will know without reservation. They'll be able to jump right in with you. So as a worship leader, it's important to know what these songs are for your congregation and to keep them in the mix of your worship culture. One of the measurements of any worship setting is participation. If they are singing and singing out freely, then your worship set will always be successful. And as you create your rough draft of potential songs, always keep a familiar song in the mix. The sixth F is favorite. Similar to familiar song, a favorite song is sure to engage the people in worship and connecting with the Lord because they like it. They're especially, it's their favorite song at the moment. Newer songs play a different role than older ones and more familiar ones do. I once heard an idea that an old song reminds you of where you've been, and a new song leads you to where you've never been. So to rephrase it, a familiar song helps you remember the connection with the Lord that you've had in the past, whereas a fresh, new favorite song leads you to our connection with the Lord that's in the future. As a worship leader, we have to constantly be evaluating which songs are giving voice to our people and leading them to fresh connection with the Lord. So a favorite song is one of the most surefire ways to engage your people, to participate and sing out. Ideally, you should always have one favorite song in the rough draft of your set. And the last F is flex. A flex song is meant to function exactly the way the word implies. It's meant to provide flexibility within the context of your worship set or service. So a flex song is the type of song that your team can run with without any rehearsal or preparation. You and your team should always have a bank of flex songs in your back pocket that you can pull out at any time. This is kind of the worship leader's way of being prepared in season and out of season, right? I don't want to get too much on my soapbox, but the worship culture in the American church is far too reliant on production and perfectionism that it often misses the simple ability to lead out of the overflow of your history with the Lord. If you're a worship leader, you shouldn't need a heads up to lead worship. It should just come out of you. Develop a bank of songs that you know like the back of your hand, that you could lead at the drop of a hat. And as you grow as a worship leader, and that will flow into your team, this list will grow, and so will the worship culture at your church. As you grow as a worship leader, that will flow into your team developing the skill also. And this list will grow, and your church will grow as a result of it. And so will the worship culture of your church. Now, once you've brainstormed these 7 songs that you could potentially use for your set, you already have more than enough elements to put together. At this point, at minimum, you just need to eliminate some of the pieces that don't fit best and allow the songs to springboard you to a final set. Remember, the cheat sheet is just meant to be a starting point for you. It gives you some clay to work with, in order to develop the best worship set that you can for your next service. And once you've used the cheat sheet enough, you'll find that you no longer need it. You'll develop this skill to do it in your mind as you approach a set. And you'll kind of, in your mind, do a brainstorming process that's streamlined and almost automatic as you develop as a worship leader. So we've created a downloadable PDF cheat sheet for you to go off of with this training, where you can practice using it for your next worship set and ongoing as you grow comfortable with the system on your own. You can download the materials at worshipministrycoach.com in the How to Make a Worship Set course. So if you're watching from YouTube, please like and subscribe. Join us in our next training as we learn how to create flow in your service. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.